So in this video, I'm going to cut over to a recording from a call that I did with a small group of people. And one of the questions that popped up, which was quite interesting, was what do you do if you're creating content, but it's not getting engagement and interaction, right? This particular question was in relation to Facebook, but there would be some elements of it that can be kind of extrapolated out to other platforms. But for the most part, this was around Facebook organic marketing, which is what these gents focus on in particular. Okay, there's a little bit of like screen capture stuff going on at the start. That's related to another exercise that we were doing on the call. It's not relevant to this question, so you can ignore that. It's not relevant to this video in particular. It's just on the recording. But I wanted to share this with you because I know there's a lot of people out there who are creating content, who want to create content, but they either aren't getting any interaction, they don't understand why they're not getting interaction, they want to get more interaction, and therefore they want to have a deeper understanding of how the platforms work. So we kind of tackle this from all different angles. All of the different variables, the algorithm, and a couple of other components that maybe you hadn't thought about, as well as kind of what's really important. All right, so I hope you get some value out of this one. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like if you get any value from it. You can head over to jacobcaris.com. There'll be a link to that in the description. You can join our private community. You can join our email newsletter if you're not already on that, so you get updates about everything that's going on and more value over there. And you can also check out the 3 masterminds that we run at my website, www.jacobcaris.com. Right, link in the description. With all that out of the way, let's cut over to the recording and let's get you more engagement and interaction on your content so that you can then in turn that into more sales. Let's do it. When I think about engagement, there's a lot of variables. So I'll ramble and you can take out of it what you will. We'll leave the algorithm for a second. There's a piece of engagement that is driven simply by quality of content. Or depth of content, or uniqueness of content. So whenever this question comes up, I always have this one particular example where I'm very much for the most part, I'm a closed book about, like, I don't get too much into like the vulnerable side of the game. I feel like some people's Facebook profile turns into like a fucking therapy session. Which is fine if that's the approach that you want to take, but that's just never been me. And then one night I just wrote this post and dropped it in our SAA group, which is 700 people, so it's not a massive group, about a really rough period that I'd been through, and how I saw a psychologist for a few months and needed to talk through some shit. And how it was like the best thing I ever did, right? And for someone who is so generally quite closed around that stuff, and they're not used to seeing me open up like that, within seconds of that thing going live, it was blowing up with comments. And these weren't like little 1 or 2 words. These were like paragraphs of people responding. So I always think back to that as an example of how, and like, these days, if I go and post something in the SAA group, might get, 10, 15, 20 kind of interaction. Like it's not a shitload. So it's not like I'm stacking the deck here. It was the depth of the content and the uniqueness of the content relative to the brand. And it just, it went nuts. So I'm always reminded of that whenever I think about, the algorithms, not giving me any love. I also bring it back to, well, I'm in I take responsibility for the uniqueness of the content. So there's definitely an element of that, right? You've got the creative or the photo or whatever. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but Facebook actually reads the photo. Essentially, if you type up a post and then you like highlight it and copy it, it'll pick up the photo and it will have tags for what it's read in the photo. And Facebook likes giving people a not necessarily always a positive emotion, but it likes eliciting a response. Because if we have an emotional response to the content, we're more likely to stay on the platform longer, we're more likely to interact with it, and their entire business is around eyeball time because that's how they get paid, all right? So the creative is important too. People smiling outside is always better than inside. There's all these factors around the creative as well. Obviously, you've got polarity, right? Stuff that elicits opinion and conflict and all those kind of things will naturally drive more interaction. How far you want to take that is ultimately up to up to you. And then you've also got the like raw kind of algorithmic stuff, which is like if you want to get more people to see your shit, you kind of go back to basics and get into your engaging with other people, either at a broad base, just anyone and everyone, or doing kind of strategic engagement. Is there, have I got 50 people in my pipeline that I really want to make sure see this next post? In doing some engagement with either the whole set or a subset of those people makes it more likely that they would see it. So there's a couple of elements. There's the written, there's the photo, there's the raw algorithm side of it in terms of, it's a peer-to-peer platform, right? Like it's the like the old school days of like LimeWire, right? The more people that are up, I don't know how old some of you guys are for LimeWire, but it's like more people that are uploading, the faster you can download. I view kind of the engagement side of things as the same. It's peer-to-peer. The other thing that I found, I was listening to an audiobook the other day and I haven't finished it yet, but ironically it's called 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media. And it talks about, I don't know, has anyone read that book? Everyone's living in denial that they can't delete their socials. It talks about how the algorithms are derived from the algorithms that they use for like online casinos and online poker machines. And so there's a natural degree of randomness baked into them, which means that you could have everything perfect across all of those things that we've spoken about. But if you post at a time where the algorithm's like, no, random, it could blow up or it could tank. And there's a couple, they were explaining that cheers, Foster. They were explaining there's a couple of reasons that they do that. One is because they don't want it to become predictable for people that are posting, right? And if I make a post that doesn't get any interaction, I'm going to post again to try and chase that interaction because I'm fucking addicted to the chemical response of the likes and the comments, right? The other reason that they do it is because they're always trying to optimize for the most money, right? Which is driven based on advertisers, which means that they need to optimize for advertisers making more money because then the advertisers are going to spend more money, right? And what happens is they split test when you see certain things and timing. So they'll split test, like let's say, Justice is looking at some golf clubs. They'll split test. Do we show Justice a remarketing ad or an ad for a competitor 4 seconds after he gets on Facebook or a minute after he gets on Facebook? And they'll test this shit. And what ultimately happens is it keeps tweaking this timing until it gets into a set of parameters. And what can happen is it can actually get stuck. And so this algorithm can get stuck because it might get to a point where, let's say it's at 4 minutes after Justice looks at the golf clubs. If it jumps up to 5 minutes, the response is worse. If it goes down to 3 minutes, the response is worse. So the algorithm gets stuck at the 4 minute mark, even though 1 minute might be better, or 10 minutes might be better, or 30 seconds, right? Or 30 minutes and 58 seconds might be better. But because it gets closed in by these parameters of one way is worse and the other way is worse, it naturally assumes that that's the best. So what they do is they bake in randomness into the algorithm so that it breaks that, otherwise it gets stuck. So it breaks that cycle by going, whoop, now we're going to show Justice them 15 minutes later. So sorry, that was a complete tangent. But there's this randomness inherently with Facebook as well that is a little bit out of our control. I just thought that was an interesting point. So they're kind of your variables. Easiest way to drive up engagement though is interaction and quality copy and creatives. You got to look at it though, like where's my time worth spent? If it's a couple of minutes before you make a post and you've got the time to do it, it's probably fine. Would I be spending an hour a day interacting to try and juice up my engagement? No. Hopefully you got some value from that one. A couple of other things that I wanted to add in addition to this that didn't come up on the call. A good general rule of thumb to remember with engagement and interaction also can be translated over to open rates on email, but we'll leave that for now, is typically shorter posts on social media are going to get more interaction and longer posts are going to get less interaction just based on people's attention span and their willingness to consume long form content. Okay. That doesn't mean you should be optimizing for maximum engagement, right? If your goal is to get the most number of likes and comments possible, sure. If your goal is to make money, you should put more weight on the strategy behind the words that you're using than on how many likes and comments you get, right? Some of the people that I know on social media that make the most money don't get much interaction at all because they understand how to use the words in a way that gets people to reach out to them, or how to pre-sell their audience such that when it comes to the point where they have a conversation and they make an offer, even if they're not getting a lot of interaction or engagement, people are ready to buy. Okay. So engagement is an element of it, and you need a bit of it so that some people are actually seeing your content, but don't put too much weight on it as a vanity metric, because there are other things that are more important. It's a piece, but don't overweight it. Okay. Just a couple of little things that I wanted to add onto the end. I appreciate you checking out this video. Hopefully you drew something out of it. Keep focus on high quality content, right? Good hooks at the top of your posts, sharing your message, right? And being open and just being you is going to be, one of the best things that you can do. Interacting with people when they do engage, all of that kind of stuff. If you take a pretty common sense approach to it, you'll be just fine. But I would value strategy and monetization and what goes into the content over trying to optimize just to get the most likes, comments, shares, all that kind of stuff. All right. I appreciate you checking out this video. I hope you have a fantastic day. Check out the links in the description. Subscribe to the channel. Give this one a like if you got value from it, and I'll talk to you soon.